Welcome to everyone to this session, including our panelists. Thank you so much for joining us here in the venue, Dr. Anthony, and the panelists that are also online. We thank you very much. So for this session, we are going to explore, I think, what we call the intersection of Sustainable Development Goals, or commonly known as the SDGs, and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and how that impacts research. And as we already know, the 4IR is characterized by a convergence of digital and physical technologies, and this has brought about transformative changes across industries and societies worldwide, as we heard in the conversations that we had this morning. So in this session, we aim to delve into the ways in which 4IR can be utilized as a powerful tool to advance the progress of the SDGs. And once again, I think this is a great opportunity for us as librarians and other professionals who are there to explore innovative research, share insights, and foster collaborations that can drive meaningful change in our world. So I think the central question for today, leading up to starting the conversation, is how can research and innovation in 4IR be harnessed to accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals? So this question will serve as our guiding star throughout this session. And with that question in mind, let us begin our exploration of how research can drive progress within or towards the SDGs within the Fourth Industrial Revolution. So earlier on today, Dr. Kaziboni, we spoke about using the power of technology to solve some of societal pressing issues, including the relevance of libraries as well. And to kick off this session, I am just going to reflect on, I guess, an issue that is quite close to us in Johannesburg or in South Africa, water shards, for example. So I would like to start by posing this question to you then, Dr. Kaziboni. What are the leading causes of water scarcity in South Africa? And how can technology be used to improve household water access in South Africa? That is SDG 6.
Thank you very much, and to the organizers, many thanks for extending the invitation. As earlier introduced, my name is Anthony Kaziboni. I'm based at the University of Johannesburg's Institute for the Future of Knowledge. Just to couch around how I would see my presence here is at the IFK, we're a research institute that was established by the university to champion the flagship stage of the university. So we are looking at SDGs, we are looking at the Fourth Industrial Revolution and how technology can be used to attain sustainability. My own area of interest, which was a focus of my PhD, was water politics. So water, to me, is a very critical issue. And in South Africa, you are aware that we have water challenges. And the common rhetoric we always hear about water in South Africa is that we're a dry country. And that explains why we don't have water. But if you look at the research that's been done and you look at where we are regarding the ability to provide water services, despite the fact of the biophysical and natural factors that limit our ability to produce, to give water to citizens, to provide water to citizens, there is enough water to go around. But we then need to understand the shortage of water in South Africa is something that's human caused, something which I refer to in my PhD thesis as anthropogenic water scarcity. We are experiencing water scarcity that's as a result of conscious or unconscious human behavior or actions. So looking at that, we need to understand where water comes from. We need to take a deep look and see how the water service providers are functioning. 40% of the water that's pumped into the communities, into South Africa, is lost through leaks. As I was driving here from the West Rand where I reside, I saw a stark contradiction, which was, actually in a comical way, a tragedy. So as I was driving past a burst pipe, I saw a water tanker driving towards me on the other lane, running over it. And it was clearly indicated that it was carrying water. So from a technology vantage point, we now need to start understanding, even issues around how the infrastructure we have is, some of it at least a century old. In literature, they will make reference to how the nuts and bolts have corroded. And if you understand pressure, it always looks for the weakest point. If you stay in Johannesburg, north in the Four Ways area, you will know that there's always a burst pipe. Yes. Because if you fix point A, another point will emerge where it gives in. So also understand issues around corruption and entrepreneurs. My research site was in the Northwest. The kind of issues around entrepreneurship and the disbursement of water tankers is rampant across the country. So with technology, we are saying, how can we have systems, that run on AI and machine learning that can detect leaks? If we can detect leaks, we are in a better position to see where to address. If we have advanced systems that can monitor water pressure and where it leaks sensors, we are also able to regulate where to direct water. So beyond that, we also need to understand that there are technologies that can also leverage our own capacity. There is a critical skills shortage in the water sector. So implementing, the right technologies can help us mitigate that gap. So there is much that technology can do. Anthropogenic water scarcity, which is human-induced, can be limited if we employ technology in the right, responsible way. A closing note on that is that technology is not a panacea to all the problems we have. We need responsible and ethical leadership. And we need to have proper systems of planning. There's rapid urbanization. Everyone comes to Gauteng to look for work. But are the city officials responding accordingly? So I'll leave it there and then we can pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaziboni, for that comprehensive overview of the challenges. But also you raised opportunities, or you offered solutions that we can put in place to address the issue of water scarcity in South Africa. Thank you so much. And to our audience, I think you might be maybe just thinking, why are we having this conversation about water scarcity? I think what we are trying to drive to, or to emphasize, like we mentioned earlier on, is that as librarians, we do have a role to play, not only because academic libraries or public libraries are information hubs and centers of knowledge, but we do actually have a responsibility to contribute to solutions to our different countries. So this is an important conversation just to highlight that we need to think beyond the broader scope of maybe what we have been used to or what we have been doing all the years. Now, building upon the conversation around technology's role in addressing water problems, I would like for us to shift our focus slightly. We do know that we live in times where information is power, and obviously open access to information on pressing societal issues can empower individuals and communities to make informed, sustainable decisions, to improve practices, as Dr. Kaziboni enlightened us, and ultimately contribute to achieving multiple SDGs. So with this statement, I would like to bring you in Professor Madhan. I believe you have joined us online. Thank you so much for coming. So here's our next question for you. In the era of the fourth industrial revolution, how can open access to research data and findings help bridge the gap between developed and developing regions, particularly in terms of healthcare and agriculture, to promote specifically SDG 10, which is on reduced inequalities.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to this a group of librarians in Johannesburg. And the question about the bridging the gaps in terms of access to information, particularly the health and medical information and agricultural information. So open access is very much inevitable. There has been a divide. Even now, the situation may be improved a lot, but there has been a divide in terms of access to information between developed countries and developing countries like India. This has been very well documented, at least as early as in the 1980s and 1990s. One might be able to read a lot of articles in British Medical Journal kind of journals about the paucity of access to information to practice medicine. Talk about research first. The research scholars in the universities in the UK or Western Europe or North America have access to a lot of journals in the 1990s. But India, kind of countries where the research organizations were able to get a few tens of journals. That too, only a few institutions were able to get access to those journals which are important for medical research. This has been a problem. This was just recorded in a kind of article in the 1990s. There was much talk about it, and the British Medical Association indeed conducted a conference about how to actually find ways to transport information from developed countries which are produced in developing countries to developing the developing countries like India. The situation remained unchanged for about many years. In 1998, one distinguished information scientist in India gave an interview again to the editor of British Medical Journal. He compared the number of journals subscribed by leading universities in India and leading universities in the developed countries, and pointed out there is a divide in terms of access to research information which are published in journals. The turn of the century brought many changes in the way scholars communicated with each other. The internet, web, and related technologies, and the clever use of internet, web, and technologies in producing science, in doing science in general. But one naive librarian and individual scientist expected the internet and web and related technologies would be able to solve the problems that are associated with print on media. When scholarly communication relied on print on media, there were a lot of problems. Logistics of transporting printed journals from one part of the world to other part of the world. And publishers were clearly saying that they don't they were unable to make profit in the developing regions where they had no role to play when the scholarly communication was mediated by print on paper journals. But at least the librarians like me actually thought the web and related technologies actually immediately removed many problems associated with the print-based communication system. In the online system, one will be able to make perfect copies and transmit that content from one part of the another world to other part in an easy way. I thought the cost of the access to information would be tremendously reduced. But actually, that was not the case. The publishers introduced big deals and increased the cost of access to journal information which are produced in journals. That was actually what happened. That led to a kind of serial crisis. Even the libraries in the well-funded institutions were not able to afford to subscribe to all the journals published in the world, and that led to a kind of serial crisis. This time, the countries like India actually formed consortiums and improved the number of journals, access to number of journals. But still, there was a complete divide between the research libraries in the developed countries and countries like India. The rise of the idea of open access again gave hope. Indeed, and one thought, I think, if we can use cleverly the web-related technologies by setting up interoperable repositories and trusted repositories, and that will actually remove the barriers in terms of access to information. Largely, the problems are related to the financial firewalls established by the publishers, which one institutions or individuals were not able to cross, will be wiped out if all institutions set up institutional repositories, or if all the scientists deposit their papers in interoperable repositories. Ideally, if one has access to internet, one will be able to access all the medical information. I'm focusing mainly on medical information now. But the publishers who initially opposed the idea of open access indeed appropriated this idea, and then in the support of the governments and other places, other agencies, to the for-profit publishers, has led to creating an additional revenue stream for the publishers, and this has introduced a kind of new complexities, like paying money to publish in the name of paying money, authors paying money to publish papers, which are kind of unusual practice. For past 350 years or more, scientists never paid money to publish their papers. They might have paid money to for color, images and kind of things. But the open access at present, in terms of access to information, particularly in the medical case, has introduced new complexities, and it has created a new kind of problem. The access problem to participation problem. It allows one to publish a paper if one has money to publish a paper. But in general, I would say open access now, after 20 years, it becomes inevitable. But if you want to speak about achieving the objectives of the Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2030, and so on, the access to information is highly inevitable, and it has all the potential to solve the problems which are associated with the traditional communication systems, particularly based on the journals. The one thing that is achievable in the whole process of the Sustainable Development Goal and framework is the access to information part. But if we can cleverly use this technology, and if we can mobilize the community and inform them about how to use this technology, and this has a tremendous potential. And if we improve the access to internet and related technologies in all parts of the world, and this is quickly achievable, but due to different perspectives and ideas and beliefs, and support for one way of a singular way of communication, that is largely through journals, not respecting the other diversified and emerging and innovating technologies like preprint servers and so on. So we still encourage the old system prevails. So if change of attitude and a different thinking, and the real value of open access can be tremendous, and then it can actually divide the gap between developing and developed countries. When it comes to agriculture, the problem is actually different. And the agriculture is tremendously local specific, and India kind of countries, there are thousands of people work on extension. They publish in journals which are produced, which doesn't have circulation, international circulation. They are local journals. They communicate using local journals to farmers, but these journals don't feature in the famous databases which are used for evaluating individual scientists. So these databases are not clearly representing the production of agricultural research all over the world, because these databases have certain certain filtering mechanisms, and these journals and the articles, for example, citation, the agricultural research may not be cited as much as the basic science research areas, but agricultural research may be useful to farmers directly. But these journals are not covered by popular databases, just because the content don't deserve to be indexed in, they are not, passing through the criteria and filtering mechanisms set up by the individual scientists. So what I am saying is, when even in achievement of sustainable development goals related to agriculture, poverty, and the other areas, people should take into consideration the journals and the papers which are produced in local journals. We should not actually go through by one database or one framework. So we should find ways to actually include the local journals. I mean, journals published in at the journals that don't have international circulation or visibility should also be considered when we actually measure the achievement level of sustainable development goals. And these are actually two problems. One is clearly related to access. The another one is related to visibility. But if we can, but these are all solvable using if we use the web and related technologies much more cleverly, and if we can mobilize communities, and if we come out from the evaluation system that is completely based on articles published in journals, and the journals have a kind of pecking order. If we can come out from that, I think the access to information problem is really solvable in quick time, and that would be the key for we will achieve the objectives that has been set by the Sustainable Development Goals, precisely the Agenda 2030. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Role that open access to research addressing issues on healthcare, agriculture, and other fields, and also to reducing inequality, and how open access can reduce inequalities between developed and developing regions in the fourth industrial revolution era. Thank you so much. I think now we do need to shift to the libraries within this context. And for that, I would like to bring you in Prof Indongo. So my next question to you is, what is the role of libraries in supporting and promoting research related to the SDGs in the fourth industrial revolution?
Okay. Thank you very much, Facilitator. I also want to greet everyone, the viewers. Greetings from the capital city of Namibia. I'm connecting from Windhoek. I'm also really happy to be part of this engagement, and taking you back to the question. I just want to perhaps indicate at the beginning that institutions of higher learning, they really support research by taking advantage of technology and through innovation. And we have seen this from a number of institutions in Africa and beyond. making use of artificial intelligence, AI, to do things differently, and also really increasing productivity. With the artificial intelligence, institutions are able to make smart choices faster ever before, because we are in the era where people are now working with robots and machines, not to compete with them. And we just needed to realize that there are many SDG targets, and with only less than 10 years to 2030, our research should be transformed through innovation. The libraries are not left behind. Let me start by saying that we are now talking about smart cities, relating to goal 11, for instance, of making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. There is a lot of talk about smart urban agriculture in various countries. So these are some of the benefits that come with the fourth industrial revolution. Through research and innovation, we also realize that institutions of higher education contribute to initiatives of developing, for instance, drones to provide health services in rural areas, for instance, the delivery of medications, and also institutions have contributed to development of specific applications contributing to sustainable development goal targets. During this era of the fourth industrial revolution, even postgraduate research is made easy with the library automation. Students can access other library resources without physically being there. And we have also noted that industrial research partnership projects have contributed to development of, for instance, robotic innovations that are appropriate for library services. You just punch in some codes on the machine and get the resources from the shelves, or direct someone where you can get the resource. I also want to highlight that the virtual engagements, like the ones that we are currently having through technology of Zoom, MS Teams, are now being used for skills development initiatives and can connect masses worldwide, like what is happening now. So there are also software that are developed, like the chat GPT, which are used for paraphrasing paragraphs and so on, which came as a result of the fourth industrial revolution. So hence, really, I see the drive of industrialization that is being aspired through the Sustainable Development Goals through the fourth industrial revolution. And it is really important for universities to prioritize research supporting the Sustainable Development Goal targets, focusing mainly on research that results in goods and services, and making the services more efficient and effective, if the benefits of the fourth industrial revolution is to be realized through industrialization. And the library services are really just part of this move. I leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. And what I have taken from your comments, Prof Indongo, is that as libraries, we do need to prioritize the support that we give to research that advances the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you so much for that. And whilst on that topic, I would like for us to go to a critical aspect of the library's contribution to the SDGs, particularly SDG 4, which aims to ensure inclusive and quality education for all. So coming back to you, Prof Kaziboni, Dr. Kaziboni, how can libraries leverage technology to enhance access to quality education, aligning with sustainable development goals?
Thank you. Thank you. So when the panelists came in and spoke, it made me rethink or redirect it redirected my thoughts. So at the Institute for the Future of Knowledge, I've worked with the library very well, the University of Johannesburg's library, very well. And what I've liked the most about what the University of Johannesburg's library has done is redefine what a library is, particularly, with the advent of technology. So we need to steer away from an idea where libraries were constructed to be spaces in which books and knowledge is stored. Rather, it become a space where knowledge is also created. I like the idea around open access to education, but open access to journals. It's a bit more complicated than open access. We need to understand that in the space of knowledge creation and consumption, there are politics and economics around that. And the University of Johannesburg's library and the IFK held an event that teased out the dynamics around that. That we need to understand, the spaces in which knowledge is created and consumed. So, as we think as well about technology, I'm a fanatic of AI, particularly the chatbot, ChatGPT. I was fortunate enough to take part in OpenAI. OpenAI is the company that developed the chatbot. So OpenAI commissioned a consultant to find out how ChatGPT is being used across the world. I was one of the 4 people that took part in that engagement. So I spoke more about how the chatbot can be used by people like me, second English language speakers, and how it can help us improve our writing. So with the advent of technology, tools like ChatGPT can indeed equalize education. But we must be wary of the fact that access to that technology can also create further marginalizations. So as we think about this sustainable model of what the libraries should be like, I would like to encourage participants here, people here, to have a look at what UJ's library has done. I'm not saying it because I'm here at UJ. But I'm saying it because I've noticed how, in the era we are in, it's important for us to start reimagining what a library is, so that a library can be invited into the spaces of knowledge creation, not only to view libraries as spaces in which knowledge is contained or stored and accessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaziboni, for those comments urging us to become dynamic hubs of knowledge and be at the forefront of driving positive change in education. And you also touched on something that I think always comes up when we talk about technology, how the other groups in our societies are left out, how the other consumers of information are marginalized. And I think this links to the socio-economic landscape in South Africa. And I'm thinking of the specific challenges that libraries and educational institutions like ours face when striving to use technology to improve access to quality education. I do think that to address this challenge, and I think a lot of you will agree with me that, as we have been saying, libraries do play a critical role in addressing the various challenges around education and technology in Africa. And there's a lot that we can build on based on what we are already doing. For example, we talk a lot about digital literacy training, and as libraries, we already have access to these technologies, so we just need to continue this conversations as a way of maximizing access. May I just ask, Zoya, do we have Prof Popoola? He's fallen off, okay. So, talking about...
Right here. I'm right here.
It is good to see you, Prof Popoola. Welcome,
Great,
happy to
great.
see you.
Thank you.
Picking on the conversation that we are currently having, do you perhaps have any suggestions on how we as libraries or universities, how we can bridge the digital divide?
Well, thank you very much. Very glad to be part of this conversation, and very innovative conversation, bringing the library into research, not just about bringing the books or bringing the knowledge, bringing the materials into the library. So like the other colleague who spoke on water said, yes, libraries should actually be part of what we're doing in the research work. But I think we have to look at some fundamentals. Why is it that we are not even achieving the SDGs? These are fundamental things we have to look at before we even go to the library. There is a report, the Sustainable Development Report, which is released on an annual basis. That of 2023 actually indicates that no country in the world, of over 200 countries in the world, no country in the world will attain the SDGs. And why is this so? We all know the crisis that has gone on around the world. COVID-19 came, we have the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. And looking at Africa, only 4 countries are actually making some progress. Tunisia in the north, I think Cape Verde in West Africa, Mauritius in East Africa, and I think Namibia in Southern Africa. Now, there are a lot of issues that are affecting why we are not even close to achieving the SDGs. Financing gaps are there, infrastructural gaps are there, and these are bound to affect the libraries. And so how can the libraries actually resolve some of these problems? Now, partnership has been key in the Sustainable Development Goals. How well are the libraries partnering with research, partnering with industries, partnering with the rest of the society? So I think that partnership is key if the libraries will be able to bridge the gap in how the Sustainable Development Goals will be achieved. So partnership goal 17, very paramount. We need technology. Again, technology is also about partnership. I'm happy that somebody mentioned something about GPT, but it also has its own disadvantages. How intensive are researchers using that kind of technology? People are just copying materials from somewhere and making them into theses, making them into publications. Libraries have to play a role in this, in ensuring that we get better quality materials into the knowledge domain. So I think financing comes in there. Are the university libraries being financially sustainable? Are they being properly financed by the universities, by the owners of the universities? That has to be addressed. Now, the key infrastructure that are required in the library, technology is basic. Are they there? How do we get them there? How do we bridge the gap in infrastructure gap? So I want to stop here unless there are other questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Popoola. And I think what you are saying is very key. And what comes out strongly is that as libraries, we are quite capable of advancing research related to SDGs in the fourth industrial revolutions, as we serve as knowledge hubs, technology enablers, and collaborative. Most importantly, you emphasized partnerships, collaborative spaces that empower researchers to address these global challenges. Thank you so much for those critical insights that you just shared with us today. And maybe from a slightly different lens, but still very much on librarians and how we can contribute to the attainment of the SDGs. Prof Madhan, this question is directed to you, and I do need to ask that maybe in this last round I'm going to urge you to be a little bit mindful of time because we are running behind our schedule. So I would really appreciate that. So Prof Madhan, what role do libraries play in promoting open access to research information in the different fields? And how do these collaborations contribute to the SDG 17?
Thank you. Librarians can play an important role in open access, and they have already been playing in making contents open access in large way. First of all, the librarians should have the clarity and on making research open access, and the socio-economical and political constraints surrounded by the idea of open access. And we have to actually help researchers make their papers open access, and we have to actually help them mainstreaming open access to research outputs by creating awareness within the premises, within the university premises if they are working with, and they have to actually understand about freeing the research outputs from the intermediaries and then bringing the scholarly communication back to the individual scientists and communities and institutions. In that way, librarians clearly can help setting up institutional repositories, interoperable institutional repositories, and speak to the individual researchers and scholars in the campus, and encouraging them to use the repositories, institutional repositories particularly, to make their papers legitimately open access, and inform them about the idea of how one can legitimately make their paper open access without paying money, and the benefits of it, and how to encourage the new modes of scholarly communication by sharing preprints using trusted preprint servers, and then helping them to retain some rights when they publish their papers with commercial publishers, by adding some copyright addendum along with their manuscript. And this way, if they can make a kind of a decentralized open access possible, that will really be very good for the scholarship in general. So these are some of the very precise ideas when it comes to open access to research information, and the role of librarians in promoting open access this way. Paying money to publish and depending on the publishers is the easy way, and this has been going on for about many centuries. But freeing the papers and bringing all the open access papers into a systematic, structured, university-based archives will be very, very important for freeing the literature for use to the posterity, and to achieve the developmental goals, because access to information is the key aspect. Without, we cannot achieve these objectives in a vacuum. So we have to have access to information, access to ideas, and access to best practices. So in that way, they can play a role in setting up repositories, and by connecting peoples and by connecting communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Madhan. I would have liked to engage with you more on the topic. You have really shared some remarkable insights there. Thank you so much. I did mention that we do need to round up. And as a way of leading to that, I'm just going to briefly, Prof. Indongo, just ask you a question related to the emerging contributors of research and innovation in our institutions, the postgraduate students. I mean, a category of users that we as librarian engage with in an effort to contribute to scholarly information within our institutions and in the world. So in that context, Prof. Indongo, what role do postgraduate students play in driving research and innovation to advance the sustainable development goals, and maybe particularly harnessing the opportunities presented by the fourth industrial revolution?
Thank you very much. I think I have briefly touched on the role of postgraduate students. I just want really to emphasize that I think it is high time for institutions to guide the postgraduate students to do research that are focusing more on coming up or resulting in goods and services, not only to have a thesis or a dissertation that can be read, but we also want to see the aspect of innovation through that. But I wanted to really touch briefly on the importance of digital technology, which has made it easy for even postgraduate students to have access to information. And it is also important to note that through library services, we get reports, assessment reports. Institutions get assessment reports, for instance, from Scopus assessment on how as the university research contribute to SDGs. And this is very important. And this is alerting really institutions to be aware of their contributions to specific SDGs and where they need to scale up in terms of contribution. And that is the role that we really want to recognize, especially played by our libraries. And this is also going to guide us as institutions on how to market or to advise our postgraduate students on the specific research that need to contribute to SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indongo. And listening to you, I think it is critical for librarians as we engage with our postgraduate students to help them to respond or to undertake research that responds directly to the needs and the demands of the society, to engage in research that serves a deeper purpose and a societal purpose. In an earlier conversation that we had with our ED, in some conversations with postgraduates, she said that we need to encourage postgraduate students to undertake research with the focus on the SDGs. In other words, we need to help them to reimagine their research through the lens of societal impact. I think because of the limitations of time, this concludes the session that we started, but I do believe that we have some time to go into Q&A. If there are any questions on the chat to any of our panelists or in the room, we will take one or two. I see a hand over there by the table, and okay, I will need to move to the other side of the room, the colleague there, and maybe we'll check online. Over to you, sir. Yes.
Okay. I would want to ask Professor Popoola Labode. Is he still online?
Professor?
Professor
Yeah,
Labode.
I'm right here.
Okay, good afternoon, sir,
I'm
Professor.
here.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, too. Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon, too.
Ekason, sir. You know that.
Sir.
As a former Vice Chancellor of Osun State University and a Dean of Postgraduate College at the University of Ibadan, it shows you have a wide experience in university administration. So because of your rich administrative background in a developing country like Nigeria with a lot of human resources, I want to ask, sir, for we audience, what is your pragmatic recommendation on how postgraduate research can be tailored to supporting SDG in 4IR? Is it by the university targeting research on the field through funding, or the university using a systematic approach to compel faculty members on conducting action research or innovation through SDG implementation? Maybe for a postgraduate student, maybe PhD or something, the university can say virtually there have to be a research or an output on 4IR or SDG for us to contribute to research for 4IR and SDG, sir.
Well,
That's
thank you very much for this. Yeah, thank you. Very, very wonderful questions, and you actually answered them by yourself. Now, the transformations that the SDGs are targeting about the planet, about the people, about prosperity, about peace, and about partnership. It covers everything. And no university can actually lay claim to doing anything in academics if they do not integrate the Sustainable Development Goals. Actually, it's the way forward to the global development that we are yearning for. So it's not just about Africa, it's not about Nigeria, it's about all of us, okay? So every university must find a way of integrating the SDGs into their curriculum. That's the way to go. So as a matter of fact, if any postgraduate student is carrying out any research now, and there is no element of the SDGs, then that research cannot hold. The reality also is that the 17 goals are also interconnected. So we talk of multidisciplinarity. You cannot pick one goal and drop the others. They are connected. Education is connected to poverty. Poverty is connected to health. Health is connected to the environment, and so on and so forth. So I will recommend multidisciplinarity. I'll recommend transdisciplinarity, and I recommend interdisciplinarity. And what this says is that we have to find a way of working together. Again, partnership. History must work with agriculture. Agriculture must work with medicine, work with sociology, and so on and so forth. So again, that brings to the fore the importance of partnership in research, partnership in development, and partnership in teaching. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Popoola. We did indicate that we are going to take a question from that side.
Thank you, thank you. My question is for Dr. Kaziboni. When you spoke, you were talking about the water issue that we have in our country, and you did indicate that technology can help with the problems. What I want to ask is, looking at what's happening currently in our country, if we do have the technology, but we do not have, accountability and leadership, the technology won't be of any use to us. Now, what I want to ask is, the sustainable voice of the academic institutions. The problems that we are having, it's across our country. And the institutions, like we're talking about SDGs right now, but we're limiting it to the within where we are at the moment. But when we live here, we are part of society. And all these things are affecting us outside our work. Do we have a sustainable voice, an academic system that actually goes into society?
Articles. It's important that we engage the broader public, the publics. And at the Institute for the Future of Knowledge and many other institutes here at the university and centers, we hold events where we invite students, other academics, researchers, members of civil society, business, government, and we engage on these pertinent issues. I myself find time to write in popular media. So I will write op-eds in newspaper articles where I discuss these issues. The one on technology and 4IR, I published something in the African on how South Africa can leverage technology in the fourth industrial revolution. By doing that, we are opening up the conversation around the research we do to the broader publics. And it would be up to, at a policy level, the government to reach back to us. So in the different fields that I work in as well, it's not only water, but I also look into technology and ChatGPT. We need to find outlets. We need to talk to the public. On that note, I just want to allay a fear that comes with the use of technology. When computers were invented, some people were skeptical. When calculators were invented, some people were skeptical. When the internet came, people were skeptical. It's not an anomaly that you will find people who are skeptical of embracing technology. There is the dark web, which is the other side of the good internet. If you use ChatGPT, for example, in an unethical and irresponsible way, it's important for us universities to put in place processes and guidelines that help us deal with such cases. As indicated, technology is there to leverage human potential. It's not there to stifle us. It's not there to undo us, but to help us move forward. So we need to use technology in an ethical and responsible way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaziboni. We have reached the end of our conversation, and for the participants that are online, luckily our panelists are online, so I'm going to request to the panelists that if you have some time, please do stay around for a little bit longer so that you can answer some of the questions that might have come up in the chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us from the different parts of the world. We have really learned a lot from you, panelists. And also, thank you so much to you, Dr. Kaziboni, for coming to the site. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To